we have three basic states, and then we have lots of blends and flavors. But if we think about the three states, we have ventral, sympathetic, and dorsal, right? Three more words to get used to, right? And we can then come up with other words to identify ventral, sympathetic, and dorsal. But I think it's really nice to understand the actual biological words as well. So ventral is this place of feeling regulated and ready. We can reach out for others. We're alert. We're organized, attentive, mindful. Right? It's this place where I'm safe enough, organized enough. I've learned to add enough to the feeling here. This is a place of both and. Right? I can be both regulated and self-regulate. I can reach out for and offer support. All of the experiences here are full and big. And the neuroception here is one of feeling safe enough. Right? Neuroception of safety, the cues of safety that I'm feeling outweigh the cues of danger, and I'm in this place of ventral, which you might want to call something else. Regulated, organized, connected, safe. Right? You can label this state in any way you want. And what we know is that when ventral is active and alive, when this state of regulation is overseeing your nervous system, then sympathetic, which is a lovely place of mobilizing energy, works in the background, right? It brings me the energy I have to show up and be here with you today, to move, for my brain to work and bring you the information I'm so passionate about. And my dorsal vagal system, which is that other state, brings me nourishing nutrients. It feeds me, it brings my digestion online in a way that is helpful, right? And we might think about this in a way when we think of ventral holding sympathetic and dorsal. So it could be the three circles that I write about. Ventral is offering to hold sympathetic and dorsal in a warm embrace. Right. Or I've recently been using an umbrella where ventral is the umbrella and sympathetic and dorsal are underneath the umbrella, being kept safe and dry. Right. So you can come up with your own image to think, oh, my ventral is in charge of my nervous system in this moment. And that brings me the ability to move through the world safely. When the world begins to feel too overwhelming, right? When we are bombarded by those cues of danger and disconnection and we can't find the cues of safety and connection, then ventral feels out of reach. And we move into sympathetic, mobilizing energy, right? Into the twin pathways of sympathetic survival, which are fight and flight, anger and anxiety, right? I'm alarmed. I'm panicked. What's going to happen? I don't know. I'm hypervigilant. I'm anxious. Or I'm really angry and I have that aggressive mobilizing energy. I have to take action. And you can feel that perhaps mobilizing in your system, right? Sympathetic has disorganized, chaotic, overwhelming energy and either takes us anxious or angry. And we travel both pathways. Right? And dorsal is out of regulation, so your digestion is out of regulation. Right? So ventral's out of reach, dorsal's out of regulation, and sympathetic is now controlling your system in that survival energy. If we can't find our way through that survival energy and come back to regulation, then we are pulled into dorsal response. And dorsal is this immobilizing energy, right? We're disconnected. Some flavor of disappearing is what happens in this place. Sympathetic, the world was filled with signs of danger, unsafe people, an unsafe environment. In dorsal, all that goes away because I have now disconnected and disappeared, become invisible in some way, right? I'm rescued, so to speak, from the overwhelm of sympathetic, but that rescue doesn't bring me nourishment, doesn't fill me. All the energy drains from my system and I'm now invisible. Right? I'm rescued from the anxiety and anger, but now I'm just going through the motions. I'm not really here. I've left this time and place. I've given up. Right? And sympathetic is just waiting to activate again, to pull me out of this place of despair. And ventral seems so far away because remember, this is a hierarchy. Ventral's at the top, sympathetic in the middle, dorsal at the bottom. So if I am in dorsal, it's a long way to travel back. Ventral seems so far away. So let's think for a moment about those three states and how you might feel them. So let's start again in ventral. Right? The place of both and, of abundance, of possibility. The stories here bring possibility. And just think for a moment, what does ventral feel like to you? What's a flavor of ventral? It could be calm. It could be passion. It could be ready to engage. It could be connected. It could be playful. What's a flavor for you? And there's so many flavors of ventral. Again, the only thing we need to remember is the ventral comes alive when we have a neuroception of safety. So whenever, I want to know, is this ventral? Am I feeling safe enough to engage with the world? Then that's ventral, right? What's sympathetic for you? Think of some of the flavors of anxiety and anger that come alive for you. My first clue that I'm moving into sympathetic is I get cranky, right? And I can feel the edginess in my body. That's my clue. What's yours? And what's a flavor of sympathetic anger and anxiety for you? And then finally dorsal, that place of going through the motions, but I don't have the energy to really be here. I'm not as present as I need to be, and perhaps I don't have the energy to care. Right? That's the feeling for me. I can be going through the motions, but I'm not really here. What's a flavor of dorsal for you? So I'm going to invite you to do a reflection practice with me. It's a react, return, respect, and reflect. So we're going to react first. Bring up a moment that had a bit of intensity for you where you felt some of that sympathetic or dorsal energy, right? Not a big moment. Let's start with a little moment just to practice. It's where we want to start. We want to start with little dysregulation so that we can be successful and our system can feel, this is possible for me. So bring up a moment that had a small bit of intensity for you. And then consider what happened. How did your nervous system respond? Where did you go? Did you go to sympathetic anxiety, sympathetic anger, or dorsal disappearing? So just noticing that. That's the react, and then return to regulation. Notice the feeling of coming back to regulation. You did return to regulation after that moment. Right? Notice that return and the feeling of coming back, coming home to ventral, coming home to regulation. So just notice that return. There was a reaction, there was a return. And then we want to respect that response that took you into a flavor of sympathetic or dorsal. We want to respect the nervous system took you there in service of your safety. To add a bit of acknowledgement and honoring of your nervous system's response. And then the final step is a reflection. Let's take a moment to look back on the experience, to reflect and think, what is there to learn about the way your nervous system responded? What's interesting to you about that moment that you reacted, returned? So this 4-step practice is something that I engage in fairly frequently, right? It's a not when I'm in the moment, but a reflecting back, right? Because then I know that I've already returned to regulation. So I can bring the moment up, feel what it was like where it took me. Sometimes it's sympathetic, sometimes it's dorsal. I can feel how my system inherently brought me back, right? It knows how to do it, right? And then I offer some respect to my nervous system. I honor the wisdom of my nervous system in that moment to take me to survival, and then reflect. What is there to know from that experience? That's the interesting part, the reflective part. What is there to know?